Time for another Soccer Down Here 1v1. And for this one, we head down to Jacksonville, where news came out on the week that by 2025, USL Championship will be in Jacksonville, Florida. And hanging out with us, part of the ownership group for JAXUSL, Steve Livingstone. Steve, thanks for hanging out with us for a 1v1.
Hey, John, great to be with you and thanks for the invite.
All right, so let's go back to the genesis of the idea. I know that sometimes when we have an idea, it'll hit us in the shower at like 2 o'clock in the morning, or if we're heading down to the fridge to get the water at like 2:30 or whatever. How far back was this conversation with Tony Allegretti, Ricky Kaplan, and a guy that we'll talk about in just a sec? How far back did these conversations go to have this idea germinate?
Well, this has really been about 5 years in the making, John, and it's been a labour of love. Tony kind of jokes that it kind of amounts to about 10% of our lifespan that's gone into this, and we immediately kind of started working after I'd left the Armada back in 2016. And subsequently the NASL had run into some difficulties, and we actually put an investor group together to try and help the Armada and save that. Unfortunately, we weren't successful in that, but we kind of kept the interest up and began kind of discussions with the USL around about 2017. So, it's a 5 year process with a pandemic in between. So that's why it's taken us so long to get to this point.
Why USL Championship? When you look at the landscape, there's a lot of alphabet soup that's out there. What was the defining factor to go in this direction and not others?
Yeah, I think, and we did look at everyone. We did look everywhere and talk to everybody and did a lot of due diligence around this whole project, and having 5 year runway to do that, it allows you to do things like that. But for us, I think where the USL has gone, particularly in the last 5 years, has been, I think, incredibly impressive. The growth of the league, the structures that I think that are put in place um, by the league to help expansion and startup clubs are really unmatched elsewhere. I think the great work that they've done on their broadcast structure, but beyond that, they're so supportive in everything from public relations to marketing to putting together pro formas on how you should be planning. They really do a fantastic job of that, and I think that sets them apart from pretty much any other league right now.
For those that don't know the footprint and what the sport means to Jacksonville, to South Georgia, basically, I guess, from maybe, say, Brunswick and Kingsland down to Folkston up in Charlton County and out toward
Yeah.
Tallahassee, 75 and down, down south. What does the sport mean to the footprint there in that Jacksonville area, as Jacksonville is the centerpiece of the discussion?
Oh, I think it's huge. I think it's really important. I come from a country that has a voracious soccer appetite, and there's 5 million people there. In that little corner that you just described, you're probably talking about 5 million people in that kind of entire DMA, and we know through the statistics, we've got at least 500,000 kids playing the game in this little corner of the world, if you like. So to me, it's a football hotbed, and one that I think there's been stops and starts to try and get things developed, but there's also been a tradition and a history, going back to the old NESL and the T-men, and there's always been an appetite here for soccer. And one of the things we're trying to do with this venture is kind of satisfy that appetite and give the fans in the area, the supporters that love the game, something really to get behind and be proud of.
And one of the big things that was a part of this was the partnering with Florida Elite Soccer Academy, who already has their toes in the sand when it comes to USL League Two and USLW.
Yeah.
And this allows for that vertical integration and the horizontal growth at the same time, having a partnership like this out of the blocks.
Absolutely, and I think many new pro teams that come into an area, I think make the mistake of trying to compete with youth soccer in that area, setting up their own systems, their own academies. And I think that causes difficulties. We've been, I think, very respectful to that. Obviously, Florida Elite are the biggest in the area and have been incredibly successful. They do a fantastic job, and we're really proud to be partnering with them. I would add though that we are kind of apolitical in the youth soccer map, if you like, and we will work with all and every youth soccer team in the Northeast Florida area that wants to come and be a part of what we're trying to do here.
And you have been part and parcel to the growth of the sport and to the growth of sports, period, with an S there in the Jacksonville area, with different events, different teams, and things like that. And you've seen the USL Championship grow with your time in Louisville, attached to Lou City, and know what it means to a market nowadays. With Lynn Family Stadium, they're doing international competitions, all these kinds of things. And I think USL Championship in their growth have given markets the opportunity to sit there and have folks. Initially, they may go, "Oh, you're not a soccer town. You would be considered the quote non-traditional soccer market." And yes, I did just use air quotes, but it gives the chance for folks to sit there and say, maybe to you, but we can really show the soccer world what Community X, and in this case, Jacksonville, can do to the growth of the sport and the overall.
Absolutely. I think as long as at the foundation there's a love and an interest in the game, which there clearly is in this area, then that opportunity exists. And again, in comparison to Louisville, I think Jacksonville is more of a soccer town than Louisville was, and certainly in terms of demographics and size, we should be able to do as well as Louisville, if not eclipse it. There's some good similarities between the two areas, the two cities, if you like. And they've kind of caught lightning in a bottle a little bit up there in terms of developing a great supporter base, a fantastic facility, and really kind of setting the table, if you like, for success. And that's something that we'd like to replicate here. Learn from past learnings and apply these findings and do things the right way, essentially. And that's really what we're all about.
What's it been like for you to see the sport grow in the Southeast the way that it has over the last, say, 5 to 10 years? Because, I mean, if you look at it from a first division standpoint, there was no activity in the footprint basically south of the Mason-Dixon line. It was DC United, and then you had to go to Dallas, and then you had Orlando work its way in and things like that. But over the last handful of years, second division, third division, what's it been like for you to see the sport grow in the Southeast to the levels that it has and show the power and support that it has here in the Southeast?
It's been wonderful to see, and it's been wonderful to be a part of it. Part of the frustration is the stops and starts that we've had. But when you look through that period of time, I mean, there's been some great things have happened. We had some. We hosted some international matches here in the Jacksonville area. We had over 50,000 at the first US game where they played Scotland, and then even more than that when we had the World Cup pre-qualifier against Nigeria. So and then you look at the women's game too, and how we've had crowds of 20,000-25,000 at matches here in the Northeast too. I think the other thing that we're really looking forward to is getting into a competition where we can maybe rekindle some old rivalries as well. Like the Rowdies, obviously an institution in soccer. I think I was a Rowdies fan, back in the 70s, watching from Scotland. We have the team down in Miami as well. So we're really looking forward to being a part of those rivalries and getting things going again with those teams at the USL Championship level.
How did the conversation with Tim Tebow start? Because obviously it's an instant gravitational force for this franchise when it hits liftoff. How did those conversations start, and what was his interest level from the beginning? What's been the Laffer curve when it comes to Tim Tebow?
Yeah, well, the relationship with Tim really came through our majority investor, Ricky Kaplan. Ricky and Tim are real good friends and have been for a long while. Tim is probably the first person to admit that he's not a soccer expert, but he is a fan of the game. He's a fan of all sports, and I think he's looking forward to learning more and more about the game. What I would say about Tim as well is he's incredibly smart, incredibly intelligent. He's a fantastic guy as well. From the aspect of getting involved in this project, I think he saw more of an opportunity from a community perspective, and being able to give something back to his community. I mean, he grew up here in Northeast Florida. He went to high school at Nice High School, and he lives in the area. After everything he's gone through in terms of his professional career. So I think he's at a stage in his life now where he wants to make a difference to his local community and give back to it. And certainly or Ricky feels the same way. Again, part of this development and this project is obviously primarily soccer, and we're focused on soccer, but there will be a wider community aspect to what we're doing as well, that we hope to include the whole community in, and maybe through that bring them to soccer as well. So I think that was the attraction and the kind of genesis for him getting involved.
Why 2025? I know a lot of folks, when they hear an announcement for a franchise, they sit there and it's like, well, this is cool. We want it now. I mean, obviously, there is a run up that's involved, and there are a lot of things that need to be done. Was that the number? When you looked at all of the different pieces, you're like, okay, 2025 seems like a safe place to start things from ground zero when it comes to competition?
Yeah, and I think again that goes back to past learnings. One thing that I think is really important for long-term sustainability is to have the right business model, and that business model to work. And the USL have been really, again, exemplary in this area in terms of their expansion clubs. Is realizing that an infrastructure needs to be put in place. So playing in your own stadium, playing in your own facilities, having revenues that drive back to you from those facilities that you can then reinvest in the club. These are all vitally important, and I think that's been our approach here. From the get go. The timing of it. We may have been in a position to announce a little bit earlier, but then we had a pandemic, and things were kind of put on hold going through that. But in terms of that 2025 target, a lot of things need to happen. A lot of things need to be put in place. Firstly, the facility. And I think getting the facility right, finding the right place to put the facility, developing a world-class facility and training facilities for our teams lays the foundation for continuing success. Once we get that facility done, we're not going anywhere else except up, hopefully. So that's and just practically, from a standpoint of building a stadium and developing facilities, developing a brand, developing a fan base, a 2 to 3 year run-in is really what you're looking at these days.
In USL, whether we're talking Championship or League One, what we're seeing these days is when an individual wants to have a franchise in the league, they want to build a stadium, but they want it to be part of a multi-purpose, multi-use, live, work, play dynamic. We're seeing that in Chattanooga in League One with what we're seeing at CHI Memorial Stadium. That's in the process of being worked in Statesboro with what you're seeing with South Georgia Tormenta. Is that what you're looking for as well, that whole live, work, play, three-dimensional idea in addition to a stadium, or to maintain revenues over 365? Or right now, are you just focused on the idea of a stadium that seats 15,000?
No, I think the former, really. And again, that was one of the things that, again, attracted us to the USL, that they have this model in place and they have other markets where, that work has already been undertaken. I think for us, the next step will be to take that model and develop interest here in the market from the authorities to get to that point. But yeah, that's exactly the model that we're looking for. We don't only want this to be, again, a first class, world class soccer specific facility, but we want it to become a community asset that we can attract the entire community to and get involved in. And then, obviously maybe bring some people along there that aren't, initially soccer fans and try and bring them into the family sort of thing.
And I know that that's key because when you bring someone in the door the first time, you want to make sure that you keep bringing them in the door. They enjoy the experience in whatever aspect it is, if it's live, work, or play. And then with the other two, you can keep them around and perhaps engage them in these other places. I know that we have to-do lists. I have 4 in various places. I have the old desk calendar, like we used to have growing up, the big desk calendar that had all the days and everything.
Yep.
Cross up. I've got that. I've got the Google Calendar, which I look at last because I think trying to find it in my phone is the most difficult thing. We've got the one that's attached to the fridge by a magnet, and you have the dry erase marker, and you sit there, and it's like, ooh, here's an idea, or and you sit there and you write something down
Yep.
when you're getting the water at 2:30 in the morning, or in the office, wherever you are, home office or office, that big dry erase board that's like 6 by 10, and it's got arrows and columns and whatever. Where is your to-do list? And what do you think the next thing is that you can check off of that to-do list with this runway that you have with USL Jax?
Well, I agree with you on the platforms there. All of the above, I think, kind of littered around my office and house and all the rest of it. I think the next kind of milestone for us after obviously announcing the expansion franchise will be to, I think, make an announcement around the facilities, and we're kind of geared towards that. And we're hoping to make that announcement certainly before the end of the year. Frankly, the sooner we can get that done, the better. And we are kind of in advanced stages and on various options on that one. So again, we're looking forward to making that announcement. I think also the important thing that we're trying to do here is not only provide a USL Championship men's professional team, but also a women's professional team. And I think putting a little bit more detail on that, in the coming months ahead will be important too. Again, we're committed to working with all of youth soccer and providing a pathway to pro for both boys and girls in the region. And there's certainly been a tradition of some great athletes that have been developed here in Northeast Florida and then have had to go somewhere else to continue that. So we want to kind of stop that. But yeah, I think what you'll see as well, John, is a kind of series of announcements in the next 6 to 12 months as we continue to, finalize things and get the information out on how the project's going. And I'm really excited about it. We've got a lot of great things to announce and to talk about, and I can't wait to get to that point when we're able to do that.
And if you'd like to break news at any time, feel free to visit, because I'm looking forward from a league standpoint and a franchise standpoint to see things continue to grow. And I've been waiting the entire show, the entire interview to drop this reference. I'm waiting for JAXUSL to find the next Scott Cooper.
There you go.
I've been waiting for the entire interview to drop that reference. And somewhere in my stacks, full disclosure, I have a Scottish Claymores bomber jacket. I have it in my stacks. When my dad worked overseas during the time of the We Laugh in NFL Europe, he picked up a Scottish Claymores bomber jacket for me, and I have it to this day. It is somewhere in my stacks of stuff, but I couldn't resist dropping a Scott Cooper reference in the middle of this thing. So
that's fantastic, and I'll make sure Scott gets a copy of this broadcast as well. Yeah, those were great days, fun days, and again, if we can develop a talent here as good as Scott was, and get he or she into the upper echelons of professional soccer, then we'll be doing a good job.
All right, Steve, time to cut the promo. For those that want to keep an eye on everything going on down there with JAXUSL, how do they do it?
Yeah, we've developed a website, nice and easy, JAXUSL.com. One thing that we are engaging the entire kind of Northeast Florida soccer community and sports community for that matter is we need to find names for our clubs. We need to find a kind of identity. And we want that to be a fully kind of consultative process. So over the next few months as well, you'll see us announce some town hall meetings, allow us to get out there and talk to the community, talk to the fans. But you can go to our website right now. There's a survey there that you can fill in, give us your suggestions, and get some more information on where we stand right now with USL JAX. So please visit that, jaxusl.com, and I would love to hear your comments.
Steve Livingstone, part of the ownership group for JAXUSL.com. Thanks for hanging out with us for a 1v1, and obviously definitely we'll be keeping an eye on stuff up here. Based out of Atlanta, but keeping an eye on everything going on in the soccer world. Thanks for hanging out for a 1v1. We'll catch you up soon, my friend.
Appreciate it, John. Thank you.